The Around the NFL podcast is subletting Marc's Fantasy Corner.
From the Chris Wesseling podcast studio, it's Around the NFL. I'm Dan Hanzus. Gregg Rosenthal here. Marc Sessler. Marc's on retainer for his fantasy services. He pops in August and pops back out. So we can sublet the place.
Yeah,
it's not necessary.
This is the off-season time to sublet that piece of real estate.
It's a time to invest in the corner. I feel like it's about to. What's the word?
Gentrify.
Gentrify. Yeah.
Oh.
Appreciate value.
Marc, keep it real on your corner. Don't let the real estate fat cats come in and turn it into what it's not.
I mean, people that typically live in that situation have zero power over the fat cats. They come in and just change the neighborhood, and you either get out and they try to force you out, or you stand your ground. You never leave.
Stand your ground. You got weapons.
We work in a part of town like that right now in Inglewood.
We do, but also rich
we could dig into that deeper
well.
if we'd like.
Yeah,
to.
we can.
Yeah.
It's Super Bowl week. How about that? Super Bowl. Give me a little horn, grave digger. All right, I'll take that too. It is Super Bowl week. Super Bowl 57 will be played on Sunday. There it is. Chiefs. Eagles. And we got a huge week coming up. This is where, right now, yes, in Inglewood at the NFL Network headquarters. One more show here. We hop on. We got to catch a bird. Catch a bird to Phoenix. Get to Phoenix tomorrow. And then we have two great shows from Radio Row with a ton of great guests from across the pro football spectrum and beyond. Then, of course, the flagship show Sunday night. And one other plug here, Greg.
Our 10th Super Bowl recap from, not always all from the stadium. I guess last year we were here, and in the Tampa Super Bowl we were not at because of COVID.
But 10 is special.
10 either way.
It's a nice
special
number.
Yeah.
It's like the Roman numeral X.
As we soar toward our 20th, 10 years from now.
And by the way, for people that want more of the heroes, we were on Bench with Bonetta in her most recent episode. Did a whole game show, a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So check that out. And also, we did a Q&A with the fans of the show via Twitter, Instagram, Reddit. We took a bunch of questions, and our Q&A is available to watch now exclusively on NFL Plus. Head to plus.nfl.com and sign up for a 7-day free trial. Check it out. You'll enjoy the Q&A, people, but you might enjoy the other stuff on NFL Plus. Maybe hang around beyond 7 days, but hey, that's your call.
We enjoyed it as much as we thought we would and more, but also I thought that Gregg especially – he shone bright during that NFL Plus.
He thrived.
I don't even know what that means. That would have been true about the Bench with Bonetta performance. NFL Plus, I felt like I was just fitting in there. But I think we're going to do more of these Q&As in the off season on NFL Plus.
Yes, very fun. Looking forward to that. We're going to get into the news. We're going to get caught up on some things before we get on the bird. There was a guy that we worked with at NFL Media years ago. Really nice guy.
Very nice.
Had been in the business a long time, kind of a middle-aged dude. And this is when we were all younger. Marc not as young as Gregg and I, but he was younger as well. And he would come to the newsroom, just a terrific fella, just a really super nice guy. But he also wanted to, be hip to the kids of today. So after he would come in for a week to work on whatever project he was working on. And then, Gregg, I'll throw it to you on this one. At the end, it might have been the last time we ever saw him, actually. Or maybe it wasn't, but it doesn't really matter because that's now. I flatten it out now, and that's how I remember it. Marc, I'll throw it to you then. As he packed up his little briefcase and pulled over his jacket and stood up to get ready to leave the office for the final time, he said what to us?
He said, fellas, I got to go catch a bird. He also would put on sunglasses.
Yeah, he had sunglasses on. I guess I could have handled that. I didn't know if you were going for more details. He's like, fellas, got to catch a bird. Wearing the sunglasses.
That stuck with us for some reason.
I think also that was part of his that was his common lexicon. I don't think he was just trying to be cool to us, but he was from Vegas.
I think it was a little Steve Buscemi with the skateboard meme.
I think it came off that way a little bit, but it doesn't change the fact that he was very nice, as you pointed out.
Terrific fella.
Yeah.
Probably a great dad. So we're going to get caught up on the news. We're going to talk a little bit big picture Super Bowl, but we're not really going to dive in until later in the week. We're going to do our hardcore Greggy Super Bowl preview earlier this year. We're going to put that out on Wednesday, which is nice. Give people a nice little runway for that show. And then we'll have some guests in the last 2 shows from Radio Row in Arizona, somewhere in Arizona. I assume it's at a convention center.
Phoenix Convention Center.
Yeah, right in the heart of downtown Phoenix.
It is the Arizona Super Bowl.
Yes, get that right.
Yeah.
We've gotten a couple of missives internally. Don't call it anything else but the Arizona Super Bowl. I like, personally, you'll like this one, Gravedigger, because it's where you grew up, when we were told this is the North Texas Super Bowl. There's, of course, also the New York, New Jersey Super Bowl with the slash, which is always a little bit clumsy, but Civics, there's some – everybody wants a piece of that Super Bowl
It's very
IP.
inclusive. It's nice. It's good that way.
All right. Did I cover everything?
Well, we'll also talk a little about what we did over the weekend.
That's what I wanted to get to next, Greggy. Now that I've set the table before we catch the bird, this past weekend was crazy, still tragically. 2 years since we lost Chris Wesseling, and Lakeisha came in on a bird herself from St. Louis, and we had a really nice celebration of Wes this weekend, getting together all the people that knew him well, still with the company, and even some people who are no longer with the company but knew Chris and loved Chris, and we had it was almost like a Chris Wesseling pub crawl on Friday, which was nice, and then Saturday I know you got together with Lakeisha, Marc,
later in the day.
Gregg and your wife had a nice dinner. And then on Sunday,
I actually transported Lakeisha to the Gregg dinner, but I
did
didn't feel welcome or necessarily that I would I would have been surprising Gregg. I think
that would have been good.
Well, I just showed up to a dinner where I wasn't like I wanted that to stay as it was.
And then Sunday we had a nice brunch in Manhattan Beach with Gonzo and Connie and my boys and Emily. It was just a great way to celebrate the man with Lakeisha, who all of us have an incredible amount of affection for.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing for us, because Corona got in the way of a lot of time with Wes, and then everything happened as it did. And whenever we try to get together as a group, it is always Wes-centric. But this obviously stands out and stood out as something completely different. I mean, Dan did a great job of coming up with a lineup of a schedule for Friday.
Even with all the Rosenthal pushback, Wes wouldn't like to just stay at one place. That's more his style.
That was one comment, and we were already, let's say, a few hours into the day. It was just a loose comment.
It's like, oh my God, he's being contrarian about this.
It's just a Wes day would have been lack of planning, but you need the Dan to get the planning done to get us from place to place, or else we would have just been at the Whaler for 7 hours.
Right, the planning gave it this great structure, and I think that Wes would have gotten a great kick out of you two getting into it about Gregg trying
to deconstruct. I said sort of one offhanded comment meant to be nothing.
It was
we went to one place, Tony P's in Marina Del Rey, where Wes, I think often, not so much with us. There were events where we went there, but that was sort of his place to go on his own a lot because it was close to where he was living at the time. And we walked in, and all the bartenders, one of them that we've known has been friends with Wes for a while. The minute they saw Lakeisha, the minute they saw us, they just lined up.
It was like Norm
bombs.
from Cheers.
Yeah,
that's
it was
what
just
Wes was.
They
to that
knew
place.
exactly what it was for, and I think it was that vibe. Everywhere we went, there was someone that seemed to remember Wes, knew why we were there, and the day just was in a perfectly way infused with all these memories of him, because we really we didn't pick anything on the fringe. These were deep, dyed-in-the-wool Wes hangouts.
And that is the best way I think you could possibly honor him, because that was him at his peak. Wes was bringing all sorts of people together. Not like we aren't friends, but he would be bringing different groups of friends together and putting them all in a stew and jumping around the town and drinking in the daytime. There's nothing you could possibly do to channel the spirit of Wes. And there's a lot of laughs and us just having fun, get a chance for us to be together. There's some tears, certainly, at times talking about stuff. It's all unfair, everything that happened, and it's everything. And that was Wes. There's deep conversations, and there was the dumbest conversations possible, and that was Wes. He navigated that sort of whole spectrum of what it was like to be a human. So I did feel like we did him justice, and it was beautiful. And it is heavy too. There is something I would have never known, because I've never lost someone like this close to us. That the anniversary of his death, his passing is a real, it is something. There is something to it. There's a heaviness, and just your thought goes to him. And I know that's especially true for Keisha, but it's true for all of us too. That it really is a thing, and it's always going to be at this time in that week now between the Super Bowl. So it's going to be everything wrapped up together with Wes, and I was happy we could do that.
It was great. And for those, because we have a lot of listeners that will come to Southern California and then they'll ask, they'll snap a photo at a place we've mentioned. If you do come to Southern California and you're a big fan and you love Wes, if you want to do the Chris Wesseling bar crawl, I'll tell you where to go.
Oh, yeah.
Hanano's, which is a legendary kind of day drinking bar itself with some of the best burgers you'll have, just right on the griddle there. Awesome place. That's in Venice.
Burger's the key there. That's the place to eat.
Start there.
You start because you can get food.
You drink. It's a day bar. People go at night, but it's a day bar. You go there. You start your day with a nice burger, cheeseburger, whatever you want. Greggy and I got some bacon on it, and they put they make the. I saw them do it on the grill, Greggy.
Oh yeah.
They put it in a circular form, the bacon, so that it sits on the patty, like the way it comes out.
I always get the bacon.
Anyway, Hanano. Then you go across the street to the Whaler, and the Whaler is great because they have a rooftop that is literally overlooking the Pacific Ocean. And what a gorgeous body of water, Mark, that is.
It shimmers. And Wes would sit there by the overlooking window with like a stack of books on his own and beer and just outlining books with his outliner.
He was walking distance in his second, actually a few of his apartments to there, so he spent a lot of time.
So this goes west to east, so that's in Venice. And then you go to Marina del Rey and you hit up Tony P's, and that's like the West Norm Bar, and that's a really cool place with a lot of really nice people.
Good place to watch sports.
Good sports bar, very good. And then you keep going east to Culver City, where we all really got to know each other. Where the old NFL Network offices were, and you go to Rocco's where they got the 2-for-1 special, and that's where you start to get banged up. Although the Irish car bomb that we did at Tony P's was untoward. Whoever greenlit that, I think it was Gonzalez.
That was a point of departure.
That was when the button was hit. It was like, all right, someone else is taking over. You hit Rocco's, then, of course, there's only one place to close it, the Cozy, also in Culver City, where we had so many great days and nights, let's face it, at the Cozy.
I have to thank Jet, Erica's significant other, for rescuing Eric and I at the Cozy and getting, because we were doing group photos at all these spots,
right.
And the first couple were great. Everyone's got their arms around each other. They look fresh and sunlit. And as the day goes on, people start to disappear from group photos. Right. Like I just noticed the next day.
The eyes are starting to droop and glaze over. Anyway,
and we saw it's such a make you feel local thing. Is we saw our bartender friend from Tony P's at the Cozy.
Yep.
It's just like that.
Yeah. He rolled on over.
That's awesome.
All right. Long live Chris Wesseling. A great man. Let's get into, it is Super Bowl week. Let's share, as we get into things, what's an unpopular Super Bowl hot take that you have? I'm going to start here. Mm-hmm. I love tradition. I love the idea of, the Super Bowl and, being able to know, for instance, what hurts Gregg more than anything, 42 and 46. Like, we know that's the Giants wins over the Patriots.
Tough to swallow mountaintops.
One of the greatest.
Ooh, always feels good to hurt your friend.
One of the greatest losses of all time. 18-0 those Patriots were. And then, of course, the Giselle, Tom can't throw the ball and catch it too game with Wes Welker.
That one hurt way more. You never believe me on that. And so did the Broncos conference championship. The 11, 12, 13. That was actually the most pain. Was right there.
Must be hard. But I want to say it's time to move away from the Roman numerals. It's time. I don't want it to be Super Bowl 2024 or whatever, but at a certain point, the Roman numerals have gotten clunky. Right now, we are at 57, so it's LV 1-1.
Yeah, you lose me entirely.
What are we doing at this point? It's like, maybe things will get better when we get to 60. Then it's LX, LX1, LX. It's just. Maybe
it's
we did.
Not.
I'm sorry, And it's like at a certain point, like when they did Super Bowl 50, they were like, it's the 50th anniversary. We went with the number. Let's just transition at this point.
Well, so when they went 50, it was the perfect.
Oh, that's your take.
Yeah,
be the change that you want. We're now thought leaders, so we can lead this charge.
That's an unpopular Super Bowl take. So I think most people will be like, "Oh no, shut up."
No, I'm with you.
I don't think most
You're
people
a disruptor.
would.
You're so innovative, but we're not going to go along with you on this.
I think Roman numerals have faded from like the things we use commonly. I mean, even as kids, also the Super Bowl was like, it was kind of cool. It was like Super Bowl 23, 24, 25. It's like, I can roll with that because we were sort of taught that in school to some degree. I'm not even sure it's taught in school.
It was like in 5th grade in 1988, people were taught that. I don't even know if that's happening anymore.
Well, I was like better at if you were a football fan and you were young, you were better than your friends at Roman numerals because you had some experience. What is the point now? And when it got to 50, it was this perfect transition point. So when we were creeping towards 51, I was thinking, I hope
they wouldn't possibly do
some common
LI.
sense would drip in here, and then we're back to these
LI.
Right. What do we care about Rome, by the way? Let's start there, but that's a whole different subject. But
so for the What Do We Care About Rome podcast,
yeah.
It just made it seem like grandiose or whatever the word.
It did.
It just made it.
But
seem
now here we
great.
are, like 6 decades later, and maybe it's time for the transition.
Yeah, I'm with you. I
like
could
that.
not agree.
How about
more.
you, Gregg?
Well, mine would be to just ban all legacy talk before the game, with maybe a few exceptions for like a 35-year-old quarterback or older, maybe 33. Just like don't need to talk about legacy.
It's very important that you set that age.
Yeah.
Before we move forward, is it 33 or 35?
I'll give the legacy people a little bone here and make it 33.
Oh, that's good.
That's it. No, we're talking about these two quarterbacks. It's like 27. Like if I saw this whole thing's like, well, if Patrick Mahomes retired today, where does he stand, or is he already a Hall of Famer?
We don't need to do that.
Who cares?
No.
He's 27 years old. He's younger than Peyton Manning was before Peyton Manning won a playoff game. He's younger than Tom Brady was before Tom Brady even was a first-team All-Pro. Like, all this stuff, where Jalen Hurts fits, what's it going to mean for Travis Kelce's legacy? Like, legacy, maybe a little bit after the game, if you want to talk about things and put into context. Okay, fine.
I hope no one's talking about Jalen Hurts' legacy right now.
I just mean, like
all this
stuff of, like, well, will they ever be back here? Like, ahead of the game, especially talking about what it means, just let their careers play out. It's such a team sport, too. I know that's a boring thing to point out, but it's like, Patrick Mahomes had his defense stand up for him in this AFC championship to give him one more chance. If they didn't stand up, it took nothing away from what he did. The fact that they stunk in that game where Tom Brady walked the ball down the field with Rob Gronkowski to get to the Super Bowl in 2018, that didn't change Patrick Mahomes being the best quarterback in the league that year. That's Tom Brady outdueled him on that day. All this legacy stuff is stupid. We can be smarter. Just stop it.
I think the three of us can choose to be. But
yeah, that's what I mean.
We
can be the change.
You are trying to stop an asteroid from screaming to Earth because there's still this 2-week gap between the conference championships and the Super Bowl that this talk just invariably bleeds up, especially when it's like stuff like CBS News or whatever, where it's like they're not covering football nonstop.
Well, I'll never forget the CP, to use a word, on our website.
Yeah.
The center position was that.
Is that what it was?
I don't know what it was. It was called the CP.
Yeah.
I thought it was like the
cover position. I don't know.
It's so acronym that no one even knows what it means.
The morning of the Broncos-Seahawks Super Bowl, which just said, if Peyton Manning wins this game, he's the greatest quarterback ever. The debate's over. He is officially. There's no way Brady's gonna pass him in the end, because that was like a conversation there at that point, that like his individual plus if he beats the Seahawks in this spot when they got blown out, that would like make him impregnable. It was like, now you look back on this, what a waste of time.
Yeah.
Well, we like to get caught in the moment.
That's
Again,
kind
not
of
the
fun.
three of us.
That's one of the
but
fun things of
I don't think it's fun.
I think I agree with your point largely. I think when you have a true generational great like Patrick Mahomes, it is worth almost in real time just – for me, anyway, it's like, okay, so he's 27. This is his 3rd Super Bowl. He could win his 2nd here.
Yeah.
And then we talk about, could he be the greatest ever? Are we watching that guy in the very, like, at the peak of his powers? But I think there are limits. Like, I think you can talk about Travis Kelce at this point. These guys that are really established, like, where does he stack up?
But the idea that like Sunday necessarily, whether they win or lose, is what also things flip on. I also struggle with that.
Yeah, I hear you on that.
Because you can play your best and lose. Tom Brady's best Super Bowl, I will always believe, was the game they lost to the Eagles. That's
when he threw for 500 yards?
Right?
Yeah,
it's like,
pretty good at that
lost.
one. Yeah.
Still lost.
All right, how about you, Marc?
Well, mine is a little more micro about this week. And like one thing I find happens every year is there's this deep because it's like, oh, you poor media figures have to go to Super Bowl cities and figure out how to enjoy yourself and get around the burg of that year's choice. And I just was like, maybe let's not judge Super Bowl cities after having spent like 36 hours in said city, 12 or 14 or 20 of them in a hotel where you're like basically in a good mood or not based on who you've seen from your workplace. Like I would say particularly Phoenix, I can already tell we'll probably get a little bit knocked because the stadium itself is really far away. But I like so
give it to yourself, you're saying.
Well, I just like give it a chance because it's like anything else. Because Phoenix last time I was trying to, they all blend together, and that also feels like a from on high viewpoint. But when I was really thinking about our last Phoenix Super Bowl, yeah, it's not New Orleans, which I mean, how can you compare with New Orleans? Like, Wes and I were out in the middle of Hoboken for the New York one, so that tinged my viewpoint of that Super Bowl week.
You might be surprised how close Hoboken actually is to that stadium. It's closer than like Midtown.
No, but we were taking $190 cabs each day to get up to do our podcast in Manhattan. So that kind of had Wes and I in a mood, and Wes's coat never got shipped to him. But anyways, like I was thinking about Phoenix in general. Like since we were last there, they've completely redone the downtown. And for instance, where a lot of people are staying, plus there is
you pitching Phoenix.
No,
right
there's
now?
a ton of stuff going on. I think like I have bad memories of Phoenix from when I lived there. I'm not trying to be that, but this was the same Super Bowl, Dan, where you and I think had one of the greatest times with your dad and your brother at the Up for Anything Bud Light party. Where we were painting a unicorn with like different colored paints, and all the beer was free. It was like this was a great Super Bowl city. There were like Wes and I would like have beers with Gregg in the hotel lobby each night. Like I just remembering when I really think about it, Phoenix was a better experience than I recall. And it's just like if you're going to go in and if you get sent to work on a business vacation to go watch the greatest sporting event,
shut
maybe
your hole.
Chill on your like I'm going to tell
or as
everyone
Travis Kelce said, paraphrasing Dwayne Johnson, know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni. All right, welcome back. Let's do some news.
Sing it, Tommy.
Every kiss begins with K.
I mean, Jim Gregg could do bits with Tommy on the podcast, Let's Go. But when it's time to get the biggest scoop of his career, Gregg wasn't able to get it. It's still hard to believe.
That had to have created a fissure in their relationship.
Oh, there's the Hollywood music. Hollywood where dreams are made but also crushed. It's a tough town. High risk, high reward. All right. Hey, Marc Sessler, you did it, buddy. And so, too, did the producers of 84 Brady, which include Tom Brady, who you heard there on the Let's Go podcast, because Brady, the film starring all those grand dames of the silver screen, Tomlin, Moreno, Fonda,
Field. So big. Thank you.
Forrest Gump's mom, for cripe's sake, the mom from Mrs. Doubtfire, she was also that. Field had a nice career. Still does, obviously, because 80 for Brady made $12.5 million at the box office, which exceeded estimates, not by a ton, but exceeded our estimates. Let's see. Let's go through it. Gravedigger, you had it as a Titanic, not the film Titanic, bomb at $4.6 million. Gregg, even less bullish. In retrospect, this is surprising to me. $3 million, but you were going for the
I was trying to play the dollar
lowest,
thing.
yes.
I thought it'd be lower than all you, and I stupidly played it before Graver even went, so it didn't make any sense.
I said 9, and I was like, I'll be a little surprised if it gets there. But I knew Marc had 11.8, which I didn't think it had it in it, and they made $12.5 million, besting the that goofy movie Avatar.
Well,
dopey movie with all the blue people.
In its 8th weekend.
This week,
yes,
this week.
Yeah.
But still.
It did. I mean, it knocked Avatar, that and another movie, knocked Avatar out of the number 1 spot after, a couple months.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a victory.
If people to go back to listen to the other episode, I came out of that guessing game thinking like, Well, I probably am getting housed here because, like, Gregg has long played this Hollywood box office thing. We used to do this in our cubicles, and I was like, Gregg seems super plugged into this, and he went with $3 million. I thought, well, I've overshot this, but we'll see what happens. But then you never know. Like, when you have a star producer attached to this, and he in a timely fashion announces his retirement in the days and hours leading up to it, and it just brought everyone's mind back to Tom Brady. Then this picture's tied to him, And you know what? Also, it was written by the people who did Booksmart, which was a great movie.
Did he retire the week this movie came out?
Yeah.
It was
he retired the day after the premiere.
Right.
The day before the premiere.
Right, in the middle of
the premiere party.
Yeah,
I got you. Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. He can do whatever he wants. He's Tom Brady. But, like, sitting on the beach, getting choked up, announcing his retirement 5 days before the movie that he has a financial stake in came out. Maybe it wasn't as organic as perhaps
I think a lot of people have questioned the timing. Not maybe questioned, like, how dare you? It's his choice.
Maybe he's still very much, about the brand.
The buzz is solid, though. Like, Rachel really liked it.
Yes.
If you hadn't listened to Rachel's pod, you should. But she really liked it.
That's when I knew I might have been in trouble.
And, there's been good feedback. The reviews are actually, like, way funnier than you would expect.
Well,
also,
way funnier. I haven't seen a lot of places.
I've seen some say it was like funnier, like than it had any right to be. Like
right. Not just the trailer bits.
The bits.
Yeah.
But what I didn't really take into account with my thing was the unique strategy Paramount Pictures had. By the way, one of the top live-action comedy debuts in a while. It's been a bad market.
Live-action comedy has been hurting for about 15 years.
Many films try to go through the higher ticket prices, do some 3D, do some surge pricing. They went the other way. They did discount pricing for matinees for seniors, half the ticket buyers over the age of 55.
That's
it worked.
Very smart.
Very
and
smart.
on Sunday, without even getting a pop from me, my mom texted me and said,
Deb?
Guess where I'm going? 80 for Brady with a friend.
I love it.
And she said she heard our little conversation on the podcast.
And that's great marketing. Because when is your mom going to want to go? The 11 p.m. showing? No, she's going to go with a friend probably around 2 p.m., have some lunch,
it was
have a glass of white wine.
It was like a 3 p.m.
This is a win for the Hollywood Fat Cats who you would think our level of connection to NFL and the culture would have led us to nail this, but other than Marc, nobody really saw this coming. It's a credit to you, Marc.
I think you're pumping me up, and I'll just yes.
It could be
yes,
the offseason of Marc coming. I got to admit the whole helmet catch versus what's the Eagles play called? Now I forget.
The Philly special.
The Philly special.
That's a good sign.
I gotta say, as time is going on and more things keep happening, Philly special, I'm starting to at least in terms of my opinion, I might be moved to believe that Marc should win these sandwiches. Like, I'm just saying it's been coming.
This is a massive segment on this show right now.
Yeah, I think what you need, like the helmet catch
I think it's the word Philly special is actually just still so hard in the culture that the
helmet catch just had its 15th anniversary.
Yeah.
I would like to see where the Philly special is in the national consciousness after 15.
Feels like it's only been growing. That's where I have to give it to Marc.
This is your gradual decline part 2, Dan.
I don't think so. This is a hill that I will literally die on. Like, I would climb the hill.
I know you'll, but in the middle of the night you'll wake up realizing it's not only that I am wrong on that, it's that everyone realizes I'm wrong.
If you understand pro football, you understand now, because I'm an old head, and we have a whole new culture of people that don't even know what Super Bowl 42 was. They don't even know about Randy Moss. They don't know about 18-0. And yes, that hurts it right now because Philly special was much more recent. What's going to happen is it's going to become just a total Philly regional thing in about 5 years.
Right.
And it was just a silly trick play at the end of the first half. And it was cute.
Silly trick play.
It was cute, but the helmet catch, for people who actually know pro football, understand that was one of the seismic moments in the history of the sport.
I have one idea for how it could become literally eternal, and I'll just say it quickly.
Yes.
Whether it's the Eagles that do this come Sunday,
right?
But even better if the Chiefs, let's say it's overtime, and the Chiefs mine down to the Eagles' 4-yard line with 8 seconds to go, and listen, are we gonna go field goal for field goal? And they say, forget that. We're going to literally call it the Philly special and beat the Eagles with the Philly special years later.
That's part of
That's
point, Marc.
That's part of the issue with me is like anytime someone runs a play anywhere similar, even if it's not the Philly special in terms of how they use it, they're just like, oh, here comes another Philly special. So it's in the mix.
But here's the other thing: you can't run the helmet catch play.
No,
right.
That was a once in a lifetime play that if you were a fan of football and you understand the history of the game, there was so much on the line and at stake when that play happened. To me, it is the most important play in the history of that game.
It's so there's clearly different schools of thoughts.
Yes.
But let's say it's like saying, because this guy invented a car, that the invention of the car is diminished because other people invented better cars as time went on, or their own variations of cars. Like, cars don't matter because it's been recreated and redone because they're so eternally essential.
Sure.
The Philly special is essential and needed by human beings.
How about this? The helmet catch is a flying car. Like, there's never been one before. There hasn't been one since.
No, I don't really
So you could just update the model of your car and say that makes the initial model better.
I think that's not where we're going with the car argument.
It's a flying car moonshot, the helmet catch.
It's also like
crash into the ground.
To recap for the significant portion of our audience who may have no idea what we're talking about, because this was a sandwich bet or prop from 5 years ago.
5?
You said,
was it 5 now?
6? What
2017 season?
Yeah,
wasn't
6.
It was still so recent. That factors in big time.
That a play in that game would end up overwhelming the helmet catch as like the most famous nicknamed play in the history of the Super Bowl.
I mean, talk about getting if you don't want to accept it, Dan, I'm fine with that. But it's like it's getting pretty close to what happened.
This is why, and I'm willing to be the villain on this, but this is the old horseshoes and hand grenades thing. Like, you absolutely almost nailed it because it is unquestionably one of the more famous plays in Super Bowl history.
Yeah.
So for you to predict that before the game was excellent, but just because it is one of the most famous plays ever doesn't mean it gets to be the most famous just because it was so close to being.
It's going to be hard to ever overcome the NFL Network, NFL Films releasing the top 10 plays in NFL history. And I think Philly special was like 4, and helmet catch was 1. And you can never catch up.
They just had a thing they released like days ago, calling it the biggest play in the Super Bowl. So they're all over the map too with what they're doing.
Yeah.
But
I'd like to see that.
I don't like that either because there's so much game after that. The Patriots had the lead after.
I think the bigger argument against it is that it happened to close the first half. I hear that, but I simply will not move off my point.
We've now done
I have the hand.
We've now done an hour on 80 for Brady and the sandwich prop.
We got to keep
Marc
moving.
with a C.
Let's get to it quickly. Let's just roll through the news, okay? We got a big week coming up.
Yeah.
Going to the Super Bowl. Like, we gotta
watch it.
Yeah, we gotta go. All right, Davante Adams. The Pro Bowl happened this weekend. That's the thing. It's a reimagined thing. Anyway, Davante Adams was there, and Aaron Rodgers, the big name out there at quarterback. Adams built his incredible career in Green Bay with Rodgers before having a big year in his first year with the Raiders. That was supposed to be a long-term marriage between Davante Adams and Derek Carr. Derek Carr obviously on the way out with the Raiders. Could Aaron Rodgers end up following Davante Adams to the desert? And our own Cameron Wolf, our buddy, NFL Network's own Cameron Wolf, talked to Davante Adams about that very thing.
Can't help to notice you had some fun on social media talking about Aaron Rodgers can move into your neighborhood. Have you started recruiting Aaron Rodgers to be the new Raiders quarterback?
Duh. Why would anybody not do that? I mean, 100%. That's my guy, obviously, and wishful thinking, but we'll see what happens.
What's your best recruiting pitch?
That I'm here.
I like that. By the way, much like the hill for you, Marc, is getting the Philly special to be the biggest Super Bowl play ever. You know that I said 2023 is going to be a big year for winning back in the
I
culture.
think that was last year.
I think that's the no. It was building towards this year.
All right. Well, I think you
did. You catch that from Adams?
Yeah, you could point to that as
winning.
Could point to that.
Like the way he hit was very Sheen.
You could point to that. That's as far as I'll go.
He also retweeted this guy who was verified, and it wasn't verified blue, but I'm not sure why he was verified. He's not a football reporter, who was essentially saying Aaron Rodgers to Green Bay to Las Vegas is happening. And then
who said this? Washington Post?
I'm trying to find he's not a reporter, but he's verified. He's not a football reporter. And Adams retweeted it, and then people went crazy with that. And I kind of wanted to throw this in just because there was a pretty significant report from ESPN that we didn't talk about here, which just said that at this point the Packers are essentially leaning towards moving on from Aaron Rodgers. And it's like, that's significant. I don't know if that means they are moving on, but the fact that someone okayed the lead reporter at ESPN, Adam Schefter, putting that out there is noteworthy and makes me think, okay, this maybe really is happening.
I think it's very possible too. I think it just sort of if I'm Matt LaFleur, I don't want this to happen because I don't want to suddenly have to deal with the fact that potentially Jordan Love, who looked pretty good when he played here and there this season, isn't that guy. You're left in a total wilderness, an abyss at quarterback. You can get a lot for him, but you're in rebuild mode at that point. But it's feasible. I guess I just don't see – I have questions around Aaron Rodgers and specifically Josh McDaniels working together in a Josh McDaniels system. Just the idea of Josh McDaniels and Aaron Rodgers. I've heard little things here and there that, like, temperamentally that's just not a match. And it does match. Aaron Rodgers having to, at this point, go learn an entirely new offense. Versus, say, like Nathaniel Hackett in New York, where it's like, at least you know the playbook going in. There are some reasons to go do it. The owner really wants it. You don't love the owner's industry if you're Aaron Rodgers, but you can get over that. But, like, Nathaniel Hackett offers you your playbook. And is it easy just to start completely over in Las Vegas with Josh McDaniels, who is about as stubborn as they come when it comes to the offense he runs?
Does anybody have any takes on the Pro Bowl? The NFC beat the AFC 35-33. There were a skills competition, 3 flag football games. Tyler Huntley doubled the amount of touchdown passes he threw in the regular season with 4 scores in one of the games, I guess. Or
they
had a couple.
Game.
So I see this game and these events through my children. They were super into it. They were into the skills competition, which still had, like, on Thursday night, they basically broke it into 2 parts. They did a couple skills stuff like target practice and, like, literally water balloon throwing and, like, longest drive and stuff on Thursday night. And, like, still a couple million people watched that. And then they did the flag football games and some kicker tic-tac-toe stuff. I don't know. My kids were super into it. The players seemed to like it, and I suspect people still watched it. So they're never going back. It didn't. The flag football did not seem like overly competitive, and I was a little surprised they have a full stadium there of people watching. I don't know how much they're paying to go into that stadium, but the kids could not have been more into the whole thing. I think it's an event for
How
kids,
much do you think
the
NFC players made for winning the game each?
Do you know the answer?
I do.
60,000? No, 35,000.
I'd say 75,000.
Mark, you're locked in right now. $84,000,
wow.
Which probably covers their room service.
Jackpot, baby! NFL players are doing nothing for $35,000.
No, they're not. Let's see. The Arizona Cardinals still have not hired a head coach, but according to Bert Breer of SI, the team has narrowed the field to 3 finalists. They would be Steelers senior defensive assistant and linebackers coach and former Dolphins head coach Brian Flores, Captain Lou Anarumo, the Bengals DC, and Giants offensive coordinator Mike Kafka are the remaining candidates. In the old, Mark, the seesaw of how you handle head coach hirings, you usually do the laid-back offensive innovator, and then when that doesn't work, you go with the hard-nosed defensive guy. This all feels like it should be Brian Flores' job. We will see if it is.
I think Anarumo has a real chance. Kafka, I mean, I just feel like I know less about what Mike Kafka's done just through him versus being like Brian Daboll's guy this year. But like
and Reed's guy last year. That's a nice two guys to learn from.
I guess it's like, is this an organization that says everything's based around Kyler Murray and growing him? No, not if you hire a defensive guy, because I think the thing that worries me about that a little bit is like they're a bounce-back team candidate just by being maybe less drama magnety next season. And if the offense thrives and Kyler Murray thrives, then that coach, that offensive coordinator goes somewhere else as a head coach, and you're starting over with Kyler Murray again.
They're not in a hurry. Anarumo is interviewing Friday. So that makes me think they might be waiting for an assistant from one of the teams. I'm not the only one that speculated that they might be waiting because they can't talk to the Eagles and Chiefs guys. But I like the 3 they picked. We got some breaking news connected to the Cardinals.
Do it.
A.J. Green is retiring. Finished up his career with the Cardinals. I would have liked to seen him tack on a few more memorable moments there because I think he has a legitimate Hall of Fame case. People don't think of him that way. But if you look at the All-Pros, you look at the numbers, he certainly is better than some than wide receivers in the Hall of Fame. That's for another time. He was a really great receiver for a long time and made Andy Dalton, I think, a lot of money.
Yeah, Green was definitely on a Hall of Fame trajectory, and then he just totally kind of fell off a cliff. Really, after he suffered the ankle injury and missed the 2019 season, he was banged up the year before in 2018. And after that, he had 1 more year in Cincinnati where he appeared disinterested at times, 2 years in Arizona that were utterly forgettable. So, yeah, I think he'll fall short of the Hall of Fame for that reason. But when he was in his heyday in his 20s, he was absolutely like a top 5 guy, I thought, at that position.
Think of these wide receivers, their compiled stats. You've got to hit them like with an inflation type scale the way you do with movie tickets because like him getting the same amount of yardage as someone way back when in 1991 is not the same thing. But he's had 4 seasons where he's done very little.
But then you look at the players that got in, and it's like, okay, Isaac Bruce got in. I mean, at no point in Isaac Bruce's career was he as good as A.J. Green was when A.J. Green was at his best. At no point in Hines Ward's career, as much as I like Hines Ward, was he that good. So it's like, okay, I don't know, 7 straight Pro Bowls essentially to start his career and then nothing else. It's like a nice peak.
Mm-hmm.
The Cowboys have filled their offensive coordinator post after Kellen Moore was let go and quickly moved on to the Chargers. It is Brian Schottenheimer, the well-traveled Brian Schottenheimer, who is promoted to offensive coordinator. He was signed to the team last March as an offensive consultant, and now he gets an in-house promotion. He will not be calling plays as we understand it. The idea is that it will be Mike McCarthy.
I'll just say this, we're nobody's underdog.
Calling plays, but Schotty is once again in an OC chair.
Man, I mean, they're just setting themselves up to be a punchline a little bit. I mean, it's not his fault. I forget who sends it out every time. Is it Ben Solak? Of Schottenheimer's resume and like every spot he's been at, essentially like did poorly, just not what you want, and then did better like the second he left, including Jacksonville. You know, he was running that offense under Urban Meyer.
It just tells me, Mike McCarthy, you're the play caller. Kellen Moore, there were reports they were sparring at the end a little bit, and Kellen Moore was calling plays. You just gotten someone that I think will, not bristle at the idea that they have less power.
Zaddy's in charge. Absolutely. Zaddy is either going to make it happen or he's going to do it. He's going to go down doing it his way.
Yeah,
which is the way to do it, I think.
If you want to look at it pessimistically, if the Cowboys are 3-7 in November and Mike McCarthy gets canned, you have Dan Quinn as your new interim coach and Brian Schottenheimer calling plays for you. So does that get you excited? I don't know. Does anything get you excited about the Cowboys? I think that we're at that point of the year after another sad January exit where you're just kind of like a little bit like, oh, my God. Dallas.
Another receiver would. That would get me.
Maybe Amari Cooper.
Time now for Moment of the Week presented by NFL All Day. Wow, the Super Bowl. It's here, 57. What was your moment of kind of the season for these two teams, the Chiefs and the Eagles?
Okay, so my mind went all the way back to week 2 with Jalen Hurts because the first half of that game against the Vikings was the first time I sort of had this idea of like, oh, this Jalen Hurts is not the same Jalen Hurts as a year ago. He reminded me of that game of the Michael Vick MVP season in Philadelphia. Like, this is a guy that could go dominate. There was a run late in the first half where he goes for 26 yards. He breaks about 4 tackles on the goal line, and they're just stomping a Vikings team. In that game, the Eagles were actually underdogs.
We're looking at it right now. Look at him. Look at him stick his foot in the turf and say, I'm going into the end zone. I am not going out of bounds.
And they were underdogs in that game, and that was just sort of a preview of like, actually, no, we're going to stomp on teams, and in second halves of our games, it's not even going to be that competitive.
God, I'll never forget that game. The Hurts play there, that's a great call. But in general, how they had Kirk Cousins in a blender.
Yep.
I thought that was the worst I'd ever seen Kirk Cousins in that game. It could have been so much worse than it even was. Marc, I believe you want to talk a little quarterback as well with these two teams.
Well, in a reverse way, because it's someone like Hassan Reddick who completely changed what this defense could do. A guy that was like essentially viewed as a bust in Arizona against the Niners in the decisive NFC Championship game. The game is over the minute that Hassan Reddick creates total chaos and puts Brock Purdy out of action. I mean, the Niners had no way to rebound from that. This is a guy that he basically grew up outside of Philly, went to Temple. He's got 16 sacks. It's another example of Howie Roseman, who went out of his way to get A.J. Brown, got Reddick, got all these guys that fit so well on an Eagles roster, and their so-called rebuild at the end of the Doug Peterson era lasted for about 8 minutes, and here they are.
So you do go rebuild, but you go rebound.
Yeah, we know that, though.
You're still pushing that rebound.
That's
trying
just
to
how
make
I
it
say
thing.
it. That's how I'm not trying to make it a thing. I've been saying that since I was like 5 years old.
Yeah, but I think you're trying to use this platform to get that some elevation.
I think you're thinking that I think the way that you think. It's not a major. It's not a major campaign for me to change a minor.
What's this?
Word.
What's this?
I like the way he explained it. I understood what he meant, even if no other human would.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but I do like it. I enjoy it. It's different. You know who else is different? Now, take some notes on that, Rosenthal. Patrick Mahomes is different.
Oh, good job. That's good.
He's a stud. He's a legend. He's the best player on the field in this game. You guys can talk about the Eagles all you want. I'm going to talk about Mahomes, who had another great season. He's going to win MVP. He is at the height of his powers, and now we get to watch him in his third Super Bowl in 5 years. And I want to pick a play. I could have picked like 100 plays from this season, but I'll pick the one, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who, by the way, coming off IR, good chance we see him in the big game. Look at this toss. It's this ability to, how about this, Mark? Improvisate. Some people would say, use improv or improvisation.
Improvise?
Yeah, I say improvisate. How about that?
I mean, that's just technically wrong, but okay.
I mean,
I can say about rebound.
So's rebound.
But show that play again. I want to see it again. I want to watch it over and over again, because what we are watching with Patrick Mahomes, we have never seen from any other quarterback. His ability to, in real time, process the field and make the types of throws that no one else would even think to attempt. He's basically, in a game that's been, this is the 103rd season of the NFL, I believe, he does things that no one's ever done before. That's part of what makes him truly a magician. Did we ever come up with a Patrick Mahomes nickname that sticks?
No,
that'd be
the magician. Why don't we just
the magician?
Well, I mean, why not? Why not? Anyway,
Mahomie works.
Does it though?
I mean, with like kids and stuff, it's fine.
That is my moment of the week, moment of the season. Patrick Mahomes, can't wait to watch him do his magic again. The magician. Great up, guys. Thank you to everybody for watching. Please join us all week, Super Bowl week and beyond. Heed the call.